5 men had been arrested in relation to the attempted smuggling of a large amount of illicit drugs, cocaine. They've been dubbed by local media the Cocaine Five, and more arrests are expected as investigations continue. 2 of those arrested are expatriates. One, Australian pilot David Cutmore, who had been used as a mule to transport the heavy cargo after flying in from Australia below radar detection. The other, an Italian sailor, Carlo Atanasio, who'd ferried the syndicate's load from South America through Milne Bay and offloading it along the central coastline before arriving in Port Moresby waters right on the first state of emergency lockdown. The arrival of both men, relatively undetected, exposing a serious breach in PNG's ability, or lack of it, to monitor the movements of people and illegal substances brought into the country. Air and sea breaches occurred, months after one another, but for the same cause. And if not for the partnership in place with southern neighbours Australia, both men, including the locals arrested, would have succeeded in ensuring PNG is a bus stop for drugs. And it's exposed the country's ability, or lack of it, to monitor its sovereign land, maritime EEZ, and airspace. Earlier this year, there had been a strong message being put forward by East Sepik Governor Alan Bird.
Police are fast becoming an enemy of the people. And I fear that we may see issues like America. And hence, let me frame my questions in this way. We've been talking about law and order for a while, particularly the governors. And whilst there is a strong focus in the cities, we have issues in all the provinces, Mr. Speaker.
Bird's concerns represented the views of his people that were shared by a lot of other Papua New Guineans. Border security has been a struggle for the PNG government. Being an island nation has left a vast oceanic coverage that is difficult to man. At present, the PNG Navy has a number of ships monitoring the Coral and Bismarck Seas. They include the HMPNGS Ted Diro, a Guardian-class ship, plus 2 Pacific-class crafts. The PNG Defence Forces Maritime element, working in an intergovernmental corporation that includes Customs and Immigration and the Fisheries Department, and they have support by the newly established Water Police. That unit, based out of Port Moresby though, and running along the southern coastline. Operations carried out by PNG's martial forces on the sea are supported on land as well. But the land border that PNG shares with neighbor Indonesia is difficult to secure. Stretching almost 800 kilometers, it is porous, and with PNG sharing ethnic and cultural ties to the West Papuans of Indonesia, authorities have struggled to keep count of the traditional crossers, smugglers, guerrillas, and refugees moving to PNG. 2 provinces, Western Province to the south and West Sepik or Sundown to the north, share that border. An outspoken opposition leader, Belden Nama, who comes from the West Sepik province, is concerned.
I would think that government should make it its business to bring to Parliament the bills to toughen the drug laws in the country, and the opposition stands to support it.
Nama himself is a former military intelligence officer. His concerns also take into account that both the Western and West Sepik provinces allow for a movement into the Southern Highlands, an area contentious when it comes to law and order problems. Former Customs Chief and now prominent politician Gary Jufa himself has raised concerns on border security.
And tax holidays to all types of criminal cartels and pirates that have come here to enrich themselves at our cost. Our national security is another issue. Our gates are wide open. All types of criminal cartels and transnational criminal organizations are now in this country. They have taken over our resources and they benefit, and they are structuring our future. And it is a very dark future for you and I, but it is a bright future for themselves while they build empires offshore. That needs to be paid attention to. We are the keepers of the gate. We must be mindful of who comes and goes. Yes, we want genuine investors, but they must respect who we are as a people. They must respect our laws. And if they're not going to do so, then we must not be afraid to show them that door. Or even boot them out if that is necessary. I, for one, am willing to do that for you, Prime Minister.
Enforcement agencies like Customs also have a tough task to ensure current legislation on movement of goods and people. Ray Paul of Customs had this to say.
The issue of drugs and the different substances that they use on drugs also. So it is a good legislation. We've been in discussion for this one for a long while. We have a lot of other cases that have come through that we did not report to the media, but with the penalties that the law, we believe Customs Act is there, but the Controlled Substance Act would be a good one to deter anyone that is intending to use Papua New Guinea as a transit point for drugs into Australia.
Now, the latest news to hit PNG was July's drug haul. 3/4 of a ton of cocaine retrieved from nearby bushes at the site of a crash-light plane on the outskirts of Port Moresby showed quite clearly PNG's monitoring shortfalls. With information received by EMTV, budgeting for the defense and police force is still less than desirable, especially in order to upgrade its monitoring facilities. Unlike the United States, where a physical wall is needed to keep out the unwanted, it's a more difficult task to do so in PNG. Geography and the aforementioned cultural ties with the people of West Papua, the Torres Straits and the Solomon Islands makes it problematic. Drugs being brought in and PNG as a transit point is a major concern. The country making headlines internationally, yet again for all the wrong reasons. In an exclusive interview with the Deputy Commissioner for Police for Operations, Donald Yambasombi, he'd said, if not for the assistance of Australia's high-level intelligence officers, the work of the Royal PNG Constabulary would have been all the more harder.
Because it has come out from a joint intelligence sharing over time, and because we have now busted the largest, I should say, drug haul in the Pacific.
A more expensive crisis that PNG is facing at the moment is the same one facing the rest of the world, COVID-19. When the government turned the switch off for PNG in its initial lockdown phase, the country suffered in multiple facets. And like Bird and Nama had said, they highlighted how important border security was an issue to be addressed and urgently. Prime Minister James Marape had also said that there will be a push for the protection of PNG's boundaries to ensure instances of movement are addressed.
Our country faced with many issues of drug, gun transporting, and money laundering, and many lawlessness at the highest level. And these are one of those issues that we intend to address.
That also raised by the Australian High Commissioner.
From our point of view, what it is the RPNGC wants to achieve, and then we think about how we can support that. Some of that is for internal crime, because of course that is the RPNGC's chief priority. But some of it is also how we can cooperate to prevent crime across borders. We have criminals too in Australia, sadly, so it's important we work together to try and make sure that they don't make criminals in both our countries don't make connections that would make the situation worse.
Outdated laws, underfunded agencies and minimal resources are just some of the challenges faced by the PNG government. And with the economy in a downturn, the stress of having these as a deliverable is real.